royalty. Power to the chosen people.
Shalom, shalom, and welcome to the Her Royal Roots YouTube channel. Today we're going to be looking at the word faith. So we've already covered two words. We've covered serpent, and we've covered the difference between male and female using ish and isha. So today we're going to cover faith. So the Hebrew word for faith is emunah. So it's spelled like this. So it's spelled Aleph, Mem, Vav, Nun, Hey. Okay? And we say a word that's very close to this word, and it would be Amun, Aman, Amen, Amen, and the root of that, all these words, is Aleph, Mem, Nun. Alright, so this word is often translated as faith. So the difference between Hebrew and English, or even Greek and Hebrew, is that the words are not concrete or based in action. While Greek and English are languages that have definitions to their words, most of their definitions are based in intention or feelings, and not really in action. So Hebrew brings everything back to a concrete place. And it brings it back to doing something. Okay, so faith in Western culture is often defined as knowing that God exists and knowing that he can do something if he wants to. Where in Hebrew, that's completely different. While these things are important and underlying issues of our faith, it is passive and does not give us a true understanding of the Most High. So we want to put this into something tangible that we can actually work out in our day-to-day lives. Faith would be better defined as a person who acts firmly toward Yah's will. Now, a prerequisite for acting towards Yah's will is actually knowing what his will is first. So let's talk about that. I will give you a strong hint, and then we'll go back through this, and then you can come to your own conclusion. His will is never outside of that which is revealed. Remember, the revealed things belong to us, and the secret things belong to Yah. Yah is never telling us to do something outside of his revealed truth. Okay, so he's not coming up with a new thing. Contrary to New Age philosophy, there's only that which has been established, and that will be established, that he works in. Yah is not working in these magical ways. He's working within his word. Now, how he carries out what he tells you to do is a completely different understanding, but what he tells you to do is going to be found based in his instruction in his word. So it can't be something outside of his instruction or some abstract understanding that's Greek, that's Western, and it's dangerous. Okay, Yah is still doing the same old thing that he's been doing from the beginning. It's not doing a new thing. It is cyclical. Everything is cyclical. Everything is what he's already put into place, and he is following through on everything that he's already done. Okay, even in the New Testament, those who were counted faithful had to fulfill two key components. The first one, they had to have faith in Yah's Torah. And every time we think about Torah, we automatically go law. Even though we're trying to rid ourselves of a Western understanding, even in the Hebraic faith, we still go law. But Torah is everything that proceeds from the mouth of Yah. Everything that he says, everything that he speaks, everything that he has done is his law. The world is held together by his word. And we all know who and what his word is. Okay, so there has always been Torah. I hear these arguments all the time. Oh, there was a Torah till Moses. There was Torah when Yah said Bereshit bara et and created the Aleph Tav. He literally, the first time there were letters created and then there was words spoken and he said, let there be light. There was law. That's law. That's Torah. That's instruction. That's what comes forth from him. That's his word. So there were laws or instructions or teachings from the beginning. The first, we can see the first actual, if you want to say, teaching was to Adam. Don't eat that. It was there. So there has always been law. The world is held together by his law or his word or his instructions. He has given instructions to trees and plants and flowers and bees and all these other things because that is his instruction to the universe. Everything is held together by a universal instruction. So please stop saying that there was no Torah before Moses, because based on definition, there was. Okay, so 1, they had to act in faith in Yah and his word. 2, they had to believe, or they had to understand. And then 2, they had to act on it. So real faith produces action. James 2:17 through 22 tells us that. It's like, show me your faith without works and I'll show you mine and we'll see. It's not the works, it's that knowing Yah and his instructions and his word produces you to, or makes you do something. It produces fruit. It produces faith. Okay, faith is a personal commitment to follow, observe, and obey the words of Yah. Sometimes it's not a family affair, and I know that's hard for people, but faith sometimes is between you and the Most High, and you'll have to do it alone. But faith can also mean lifting up and bearing another person or carrying their reproach, and we'll get to that in a second. When trying to get the working definition of a word, there are 2 things that have to happen. The first is finding the first occurrence. All this, jumping around the Bible, it doesn't work like that. Precept upon precept. That's called building. It's called starting with the foundation and then adding to it as you go. You don't jump and grab a verse from here and then try to make it fit by grabbing a verse from here. No, you start from the beginning and you work your way systematically through the thought. Okay, it's finding the first occurrence of the root. The second thing is finding the first place that the word is actually used in an action form. Okay, so those are 2 important things to understanding the meaning of a word. So Numbers 11 through 12 is the first occurrence of the root of this word. And so the root of this word, literally means to be firm, stable, but what we're going to see in this verse is actually to nourish. Right. So you'll see what this nourishing has to do with faith. So in this verse, Moshe is speaking to Yahuwah, and he's saying, did I bear these people? Why am I nursing them like a child? So he is nourishing them. So what does nourishing have to do with this? The first occurrence deals with faith that a nursing child has in his or her parent. This is not blind trust, as we would see it in English, but observable, proven trust. The parent, by continually caring and supplying the child's needs, has proven themselves faithful. Okay, so because faith is something that nourishes and sustains, it would be safe to agree with the prophet of Habakkuk that says, behold, he whose soul is not upright in him shall fail, but the righteous shall live by his faith. Okay, so we understand that once the beginning of faith is to be nourished, and then once the person is nourished, then they're upright, because it's just like a child. When you nurse a child, they're small and they're needy and they're feeble, but as they grow, they get stronger and stronger based upon the nutrients and the nutrition that's put in the child, and then they begin to be able to sustain themselves, and then they can go on and go from milk to meat. Kind of see the picture? Okay, so once a person has witnessed the nourishing support of life that comes from faith in Yah, i.e. the milk of the word, then that person should be able to move on to the meat of the word. So what is the meat of the understanding of faith? The support of faith moves from the understanding of faith moves from being support for you to support from you. Okay? So once a person sustained a strength, now it is time to see their amunah, or their faith in action. So what does faith in action look like? So now we're going to get the working definition of the Hebrew word. In Exodus 17:12, here we're going to get the working definition. So if you don't know the background, please go and read, but there's a battle, and Moses was given instructions to hold his hands up. And as long as Moses' hands were up, Israel would win. When his hands would fall down, Israel would lose. So what happened is Aaron and Hur decided that they're going to help or assist Moses. Now I'm going to give you the word right here, and this is pretty much it for me. But Moses' hands grew weary, so he took a stone and put it. So they took a stone and put it under him, and he sat upon it. And Aaron and Hur held up his hands, one on one side and the other on the other side, so his hands were steady. Emunah is the word under steady, until the going down of the sun. So faith actually has to do with assisting. So earlier we talked about faith does not always have to do with you, but sometimes it has to do with assisting or bearing that of another person, making another person stable. Once you've got the word and the milk and you've gone on to the meat, now it's your turn to make sure that somebody else is steady, to practice or put your faith to work. Okay, so this is the type of faith that we should be at this point in our walk. And if we're not at this point, this is where we want to get to. So it is the support or emunah of Aaron and Hur that held Moses' arms, not the support of Moses or the emunah of Moses. Everybody knew Moses had emunah or faith because he was doing what he was told to do. Okay, so when we say I have faith in Yah or I have faith in God, we should be thinking I will do what I can do to support God. Now that sounds weird, but by doing what Yah has instructed you to do, that is how you are supporting or taking the next step or putting your faith in action. I'll give you a couple examples really quick. We always get a negative connotation on the story of Sarah and Hagar. Now the negative connotation comes because she didn't understand the instruction that Yah gave her. Yah said she would have a child. He didn't tell her to go off and get Hagar, or didn't tell her to go off. Hagar was already there. He didn't tell Sarah to have a child through Hagar. It was going to come through her. She didn't understand it, but she did act in faith. And what was her faith? Her faith was, I believe so much in the promise that I can put aside my personal issues or maybe beliefs or whatever, because the promise is greater. So she gives Hagar to Abraham so that the seed can be brought forth. But that wasn't the promise. So that was her issue. But her faith, the reason why she makes it into Hebrews chapter 11, is that her faith compelled her to do something in order to support what she believed was what Yah instructed her to do. Now, in the long run, it didn't turn out that way because Yah's instruction was clear. You're going to have a child. Sometimes we get so busy and so wrapped up in how we want something to come into fruition that sometimes we jump the gun on things. So that was another one of those situations. He's the same person. And there's plenty of examples. If you go and read Hebrews chapter 11, you'll get all the examples. And I'll give you one more. I'm going to use Sarah again. When Sarah and Avram go into Egypt, and he says, say you're my sister. Now, to most women, that's like, what? Like, that doesn't make any sense. You're trying to let me... To her, it was the promise. Remember, the faith is always in the promise. And so, if she understood, you're going to be killed if I don't do this, and I know that the promise is that there's supposed to be a seed that will be numerous coming through you, then I'm going to do whatever I can. I'm going to support or emunah you by doing my part in making sure that the promise comes to be and that it's not disrupted by me interfering in the promise. Okay. So this type of faith mentioned before will cause a person to bear the reproach or lift up another. Now that my faith is strong, how can I lift up another who is trying to do their best to carry the burden that Yah has laid upon them? As women, that should be your thought. My husband has a burden. How can I carry it out? It's not flawless. I mean, Sarah, I'm using her a lot because it says daughters of Sarah when we get to the Brit Kadashah in the New Testament. So I'm using her a lot in this example. It wasn't perfect. She did not have issues. She did not tell him, hey, send her away, this is not working out. And it was her own idea. So that's not the issue. The issue is doing it anyways. Doing it through the issues that may arise or the problems that may come up or the friction that might be there, is to continue to support and to continue to lift up and to continue to emunah in your relationship, because it's all about being steady and firm, and there's a blessing that comes with it. There's so much more that I can say, but I'm sure that by now your wheels are turning and you can see all these areas. So as you go through Hebrews chapter 11, and if you want to leave a comment and point out something that you might have learned, go ahead. And until then, shalom, shalom.
Royalty. Power to the chosen people. Bible in my hand.